2007 CES-sponsored Rally of the Tests started on a brisk November evening from Scarborough, where the cars were flagged away for the prologue section by the Mayoress, before heading straight onto the first regularity at Oliver's Mount racing circuit. Bert Dulk, a regular competitor on the Dutch classic rally scene, was driving the number 1 car, having won the 2006 rally in his Alfa. The venue at Oliver's Mount is British mainland's only natural road circuit, and proved a perfect starting point for those wishing to let off a little steam. Also in an Alfa were the usual pairing of Jane Wignall and Peter Rushforth, one of several crews to have competed in all the previous runnings of the rally. Jane and Peter haven't had much luck mechanically during their last few outings, which might explain the slightly nervous look from Peter here. No such worries for Ian Tully though. Sitting alongside FIA World Regularity Champion Malcolm Pickering must boost your confidence, although Ian is a world champion himself, of course. So as the Irish crew of Tom Callan and Alan Dorman lead the starting gantry, previous winners Frank Fennell and Kevin Savage start to head out into the first trial of the event. Another Irish crew are Mickey Gabbett and Michael Jackson, also in an Alfa. And this time from Northern Ireland, former British Rally champion Robin Eyre Maunsell and co-driver Peter Scott. The crews would complete 2 laps of the circuit, and here comes Bert Dulk to start his second. Fourth fastest on this first test would be Kevin Hazelden in his nimble little Mini Cooper, navigated by David Kirkham. Well, they are starting on a hill. At the hairpin, things were a bit more exciting as some crews took the chance to show off. But sadly for us, a marshal decided to purposely stand in front of our camera during perhaps the best shot of the night of Paul Wignall throwing his Alfa completely sideways. Still, knowing Paul, we're sure there'll be plenty more where that came from. The cars then moved on to the Marine Drive test, where some impressive performances were on display for the locals and tourists who turned out to watch, as well as the competitors who took the chance to have a quick spy on their rivals' best efforts. Scott Huerdeberg and Benny Rutgering didn't achieve much on the regularity, the crew taking a wrong turn. Let's hope they do better on this first test. One of the youngest competitors on the event was Katrina Rings, navigating in one of the oldest cars, Bill Ainscoe's Alvis. We caught up with Katrina to find out how things were going for them.
Oh, it was very good fun. It was a little bit more difficult than I had planned. We nearly went the wrong way, but we didn't quite, I don't think. It took me a while to work out. I had trouble turning the pages of my route book, so that was the biggest challenge, I think. But we were very, very late, actually. I think we were about a minute late, maybe 2 minutes late. I sort of lost count.
Let's take a look at the route for this 7th rally of the tests, and the first to be an official round of the FIA World Regularity Championship. The crews have already started in Scarborough and would then set off gradually west through the Yorkshire Wolds and Dales and then north to Penrith on the edge of the Lake District. The second full day of the rally would see the crews head into Scotland with a tough evening section to follow. Day 3 of the rally would finish in Blackpool after a total of over 30 tests and 10 regularities. The weather was still surprisingly calm and dry for a November outing the next morning, as the cars headed out to the Sledmere estate just south of Scarborough for the morning's first adventures. Tony Mason was lending his services at the time control, and as well as Tony, there were many other artefacts for the crews to marvel at. We spoke to Benny Rutgerink about his misdemeanours the night before.
Yeah, at a certain moment my driver wants to go left and I wanted to go right, and unfortunately he was right, we had to go left.
Oh, gosh.
So it took us a minute to get on time on the right place.
And that was on the first regularity?
And that was the very first regularity,
so
5 minutes after the start of the event.
Fastest on the opening test, though, had been Gary Edgington on his and wife Jane's first rally of the tests. So how did that feel?
Very surprised actually. At the start we were going to go really steady and preserve the car. I didn't think I was going that quick. There was more to come. But we've had a first now, it can only get worse.
The Rally of the Tests always makes use of many unusual venues, including several in farmyards. It's a wonder how they find so many rally enthusiastic farmers, but they do. These tests are always designed to make the driver and the co-driver and the second co-driver, as applicable here for Green, Hamer and Sly, and not to mention the car, work as hard as possible, with tight cone sections in quick succession and hidden obstacles that are easy to miss if your navigator takes his eye off the ball for even a second. Despite a bouncy start, Dave Smith and Andrew Durden's Vauxhall VX490 proves an agile little mover. But what of Hudeberg? Has navigator Benny had his porridge this morning? Well, they're supposed to do a figure of 8, but never mind. Andrew Chester and David Baldwin hesitate here ever so slightly. But there's no such time wasted for Kenny and Jay McEwen. Then again, and imagine what it's like in a car this big. All one this long. Some are determined to be the most entertaining. Or should that be terrifying?
Have you ever nearly taken out a camera on before?
Yes.
Yes. I've hit most people.
Is that good fun?
No, it was. I'll excuse my French. I did appallingly around there.
Ah, looked pretty good from here.
No, that's why it was slow.
Thank you.
It always looks good when it's rubbish.
Paul Hargreaves and David Naylor had problems with the driver variety too. Paul wanted to go his own way.
How's that, Paul?
I'm sorry we cocked up.
31, 22.
The handbrakes were all right, but got a bit muddled in the middle. Don't blame him.
Jeff Bracknell and Nigel Rayburn weren't at all sure which way they wanted to go. Whereas Harvey and Jan de Cross had only one way in mind.
35.07. How was that?
It's fairly sideways.
How was that?
Oh, gravelly and untidy, but we're here, no mistakes. Not quick, I don't think. Thank you. Good luck.
Good. Fastest time was that? Yeah. Well done.
Long way to go yet.
Sadly for the Gaffneys though, a wrong test picked them up a 10-second penalty, so it was indeed a long way to go for them. And that was just today. That was only the first test of the first proper day of the rally. Isn't it nice to keep people entertained? The father here had never had so much fun whilst ploughing potatoes. The event had new sponsors for 2007. CES UK Limited, Britain's largest exhaust and catalyst stockist, provided much welcome hospitality. And what's more, they plan to continue their support in future years. Don't lose your hat. While all around you are losing theirs, there's a penalty for that. More fun beckoned at the karting circuit just outside Wetherby. Here the crew's got the chance to really get a bit of speed up, with 2 laps around the fast track to keep them awake. Richard and Joe McAllister were still fighting those cones in the huge Mercedes. Whilst Katrina Rings was still shouting the odds at Bill Ainscope in their Alvis. Nicholas Pryor only just made the stopper stride line at the finish. Whereas Roy Perkins hardly stopped at all. And Jocelyn Williams and Janet Lloyd-Jones stopped in the wrong place altogether. Let's go on board with Gary and Jane Edgington as they take their Hillman in to joint fastest time once again.
It was okay. I was a bit slow the first lap. Didn't take the cuts quite right, but the second time it was much better. Thank you very much.
Through the Yorkshire Wolds and on into the Dales the rally moved, with a stop at the entertaining Lightwater Valley theme park, but of course for attractions other than the fairground. Part of the area, where old rides go to retire, had been turned into a tricky little test of driver and navigator skill, and some showed less skill than others. But Dolk shows us the correct route around the test. George Mullins and Des Wood even warrant a round of applause. There's not too much of a hesitation from Tom Callanan here, but enough to lose those all-important seconds. Bob Rutherford seems to be pointing every way but the one that Jerry Brown is driving in. And it's not much better for Neil Wilson and Willie Cave. Colin Forster and David Harvey lose a bit of time. But the biggest mistake is a highly unusual one by Frank Fennell and Kevin Savage. They weren't supposed to stop there. Well, it was the biggest mistake until Paul Wignall and Mark Appleton came along. They're leading the rally after the prologue section, but Paul still has to give it that one last push. And of course, we were waiting at the end of the test for them.
What have you been doing?
What have you been up to, Wignall?
Clipped a wall, I'm afraid.
Your good lady was in a good position for it, though.
Yes. The wall wasn't, unfortunately.
No.
Still only a few seconds dropped.
That's the case of showing off for the cameras then?
You know me. I think that's flat.
Yes, I dare say it is flat. And what about that rare lapse of concentration from Kevin Savage? Mark Hansen consults him after the test, but if I were Mark, I wouldn't bother.
We had a misunderstanding. I thought we were anti-clockwise round the merry-go-round, and it should have been clockwise, so we just wasted a couple of seconds, but never mind.
On this event, it can only take a couple of seconds to drop you right down the leaderboard, but Kevin, as always, takes it all in his stride. More stately homes beckoned the crews, and most took the chance to get to grips with the remaining route or to fettle the car. Having a great event so far, with several fastest times under their belt, were Gary and Jane Edgington, but it looked like they might be having problems.
I've lost quite a bit of oil pressure.
Oh.
And we don't have a light working. So the oil pressure gauges, we've dropped about 15 pounds of oil pressure from what we had this morning. So going into tonight, I've got a nice bright light that comes on if it goes out, and I'll be a lot happier.
So the rally set out across the Pennines on its way to the first real evening test, which included a navigational section around the Warcop military ranges. These evening loops are designed to sort the grain from the chaff. The navigator really has to keep his eye on the maps. The slightest lapse of concentration could see you in the absolute middle of nowhere, without a clue where you actually are. The driver, for his part, has to drive on the limit without throwing the car off into a ditch trying to get to the next control on time. And having been up and running since more or less the crack of dawn, you both have to stay awake. And after all that, it's still not over. Just because you've pulled into the hotel car park, it doesn't mean things are finished for the day. There's the car to be checked over, and any necessary repairs to be done, and no doubt there'll be one or two navigators checking maps for the next day. But let's take a look at how that first night section has rearranged the leaderboard. Paul Wignall takes the lead with navigator Mark Appleton 5 seconds ahead of Malcolm Pickering and Ian Tully. Philip Armstrong and Frank Hussey are just behind in third, with Frank Fennell and Kevin Savage making a slow start in fourth and almost a minute behind the leaders. Former British Rally champion Robin Eyre Maunsell is again over a minute behind them, navigated by Peter Scott, and Jerry Brown and Bob Rutherford make up the top 6. The next morning we caught up with some of the leading crews.
How was the evening for you last night?
The evening was very well.
Yes.
Yeah, clean run.
Yeah.
Difficult?
No, as long as you were awake and stayed on song,
Yes.
and just maintained your concentration,
Yeah.
and just follow the tulip, it was okay.
Now this is a real old classic car, as it were, compared to some of the more modern sports cars.
Oh, it is, yeah. This is 1962.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
how does it compete on the tests?
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, very quick. It's very light car, and we've stiffened the front. You can put 2 shock absorbers on either side of the
can
front. Yeah. You lose some of the turning circle, but it should turn in much better. Yeah.
So third overnight, you're going to stay there or move up again with 11 seconds to go in the day?
Well, we were second yesterday, so we're in the
moving
wrong
backwards
direction. So
now,
hopefully
yeah.
we can reverse that today, go the other way.
But the man they had to beat wasn't planning on giving up the position too easily.
Yeah, we're second at the moment
Good
overall,
stuff.
and we
And how many
cleaned last
seconds
night.
behind the lead then?
5. So it's all to play for, and
With a long way to go.
a long way to go. Yeah.
Despite lying 7th after the prologue section, Nigel and David Redwood hadn't had quite as good an evening.
We didn't, unfortunately. We got lost in the camp, so dropped a lot of time in the camp.
The camp's as difficult as it gets, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it was good though. I mean, it was just one checkpoint we spent about 10 minutes trying to find, which kind of ruins the day. But up until that point, it was great.
Really doing well. You've been out in this car quite a few years now, though, haven't you?
Yeah.
How many times in this?
On this rally, it's done all but one of them.
Really?
Yeah.
So you know your way around now?
Yeah.
Apart from Walcott.
Apart from Walcott, yeah.
Tell me why you keep doing it after so many years. British champion in the 70s?
Do you know, I wish I knew.
No.
And as for my wife, now she really wants to know. So I just don't know. But it's got to stop.
Well, as long as he doesn't stop quite like Jane Wignall, who, although now 7th overall, might be out of the rally altogether if Peter Banham can't fix her Alpha. What's the problem with this one?
The back axle's falling off.
Oh, that's not what you want.
Body which way?
It was as though we'd got a puncture or the wheel was going to fall
Right.
off, but I tightened the wheel nuts this morning, so I knew it wasn't that. So I thought that was it. I thought we were out, but Peter seems to think he can fix it.
Peter can fix anything.
Pardon?
Peter can fix anything.
Yes.
It's got 4 wheels on it still, so he can certainly get it going.
Yeah, but I mean, the body was just, the rear body was just doing this all the time.
With only 2 service crews to a rally of over 100 cars, Peter Banham never has a minute to rest. So many competitors end up helping out as well. Kevin Savage proves handy with a wheel gum. The first test of the day took place at Carlisle Airport, and much to our surprise, Jane Wignall turned up on time, and with all her usual flair disguising the fact that only half an hour or so earlier she'd almost been out of the rally. Despite hoping to keep his overnight second place, Malcolm Pickering took it relatively easily here. Going well so far in 10th were Frank Lenihan and Kath Woodman. And in another speedy little mini were Kevin Hazelden and David Kirkham. But because of the restrictions on age, all cars have to have been in manufacture before 1963, the crew don't qualify for the overall awards. But they're still making the most of it and proving to be very entertaining. Along with Frank Fennell, who always puts on a show when he sees a camera.
All right.
But how was Jane Wignall feeling? That was a fairly impressive performance on the last test, considering.
Oh.
Considering you just had your axle stuck back on.
Yes, it was a bit unnerving, I must say.
It was all fixed?
Yes.
Oh.
Well, Peter will just have to check it at lunchtime.
You have to run here, you do realise that?
I'll do my best.
In this test, one crew member has to stay belted up in the car with their hands on the dashboard, whilst the other has to get out and wait for the marshal's instructions before running back to the car, putting on their seatbelt, and then when the marshal gives word,
go!
Driving off. Yes, strange we know, but they do it every year, and it seems to cause more nerves amongst competitors than any other test.
Go!
Yeah, shit.
Competitors on the event have not only to make sure that their cars adhere to strict period regulations, but also that they're attired ones too. And it's always nice to see that some of the marshals have made the effort as well. Gary and Jane Edgerton were at least going well on the test after their oil problems, but were still struggling to get to grips with the regularities. Whereas Bill Ainscough and Katrina Rings were doing better on the regularities than on the tests. The rally was now into the Scottish borders, and still more castles and stately homes were turned into makeshift time controls for the rally. Another crew high on the leaderboard, but not eligible for overall awards, were Warren and Jean Chamura in their candy floss coloured Citroen DS. Certainly made a spectacle on the tests. Frank Lenehan continues to impress, and here you can just see navigator Kath Woodman scream as Frank throws a mini around the cones. Perhaps we spoke too soon for the Edgingtons. Hesitation here cost them a good 5 seconds. All tests must be completed in the exact manner described on the instruction sheet. Any mistake, including not stopping astride a designated line, going the wrong way, or not bothering to complete the route, constitutes a wrong test and penalty. Any cones hit also accrue penalties. Whilst John Harbottle decides which way he'd like driver Keith Leckie to go, we finally caught up with the rally leader, Paul Wignall.
2 minutes to tell me about your performance last night.
Well, thanks to my excellent navigator, we managed to get walk up right, and we cleaned that. We didn't drop any time on it, but it was frantic for half an hour. It was non-stop, very quick. Mark did a terrific job on the tulips, so we made up for an earlier mistake in the day. So we salvaged our first position.
It's good.
But whether we remain in first position, we'll have to see.
Yeah, if we can keep the combination of the senses of the navigator with the lunacy of the driver.
It's a good combination.
Good combination. That's the way to do it. Things calmed down after that with a run through yet another farmyard. although some couldn't resist a chance to get up a bit of speed. And others couldn't resist a chance to have a go at the cameraman. Let's have a quick trip on board with Mickey Gabbett in his Alfa Romeo.
Thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen.
Ian Tully explains the difficulty in deciding whether to go for it or take it easy.
Yeah, we can try and go faster the second time and then probably go off.
Probably end up doing a U-turn.
Please edit that. Take care, gentlemen. Thanks very much.
It's not just the tests themselves that provide obstacles. When half the rally is completed on farmyards, some hold-ups are inevitable. Other hold-ups are of your own doing if you're not sure of the correct route. Some are just totally unnecessary.
That's the second time today I've had that off.
We wonder why.
That's trivial.
15, 42, 46.
How's your day going?
Was alright until then.
Oh,
Just go past that.
But it could have been worse. We couldn't have been here possibly.
Thank you very much.
And the next test we find that Kevin Savage has taken over the driving as well as the navigating.
Bit of downhill, he could nearly do it himself.
He did it himself with one hand.
That was really good to watch.
It's a bit showy, if you don't mind me saying. All show, no go.
They were looking good on the test, but it was bad news for Mickey Gabbett and Michael Jackson.
You say you're having a few problems?
We are. The suspension's nearly collapsed, the front suspension.
You get to the end of the day all right?
I don't think we'll do tonight, but through that forest there we were just going clatter, clatter, clatter the whole time. I don't know what's wrong, we'll find out later.
Nicely done by George Mullins. Shame he gets it wrong at the end. The cars are supposed to pass to the left of cone H, not to the right. This time we put our onboard camera on Paul Wignall's Alpha to see how he does it. And as the night drew in, the test got harder to interpret in the dusk. At the end of a long night, competitors can always be found crowded around the notice board, checking their positions. So why don't we have a look at who's at the top? Paul Wignall still has a healthy lead, with Malcolm Pickering having dropped out of the top 10 altogether. So that leaves Philip Armstrong to move back into second, Frank Fennell to third, and Robin M. Monsell to fourth. Storming up the leaderboard from 10th to 6th is Frank Lenihan, having had an excellent run. Making up the top 6 is the first of the Dutch competitors, Jan Ebers.
And on the final morning of the rally, most of the crews didn't want to speak to us much.
Would you mind telling me about your adventures in the forest yesterday evening? Well, not in the forest. Well, yeah, in the forest.
In the forest?
Well, in the night section, anyway.
It was alright, 10 minutes in a ditch.
Yeah, what actually happened then?
Can't say if it might incriminate me at a later date.
Alright.
But it was a soft ditch.
How did you find doing the test in this little car?
Oh, it's brilliant. He's a great auto tester.
It seems to be.
Yeah,
and
fantastic.
navigation's still going well?
It was yesterday. We'll see how today goes.
More farmyards summoned the crews. Our camerawoman's so intent on getting a bit of culture here with a farmer in the foreground, she just about misses Andrew Chester throwing the tail out. Richard Prosser almost stopped, presumably thinking that this is a passage control. Richard Dresner does stop, whilst Colin Mackenzie decides which way to go. It's better to be sure than to get the test wrong. And will Benny Rutgerink send Koch Huderberg the right way? Well, yes, he does, but this time it's Hock who makes a mistake. Richard and Joe McAllister are third in their class, so they take it easy amongst the chickens. With 2 minutes in hand over fourth place Lisa Lankes, there's no point in making any careless mistakes now. And it's a similar case with Jerry Brown, who is currently second in the same class for saloons over 1800cc, and he's 4 minutes behind top man in class, Charles Graves in the Jaguar. So it looks like Charles has it in the bag. Unless he throws it in the wall somewhere. Hank and Nicole Meltz have continued to entertain, and they should finish the event first in class. Pat Neville is another who should win his class. Although Paul Wignall still leads the rally, it doesn't stop the rest of the field having some fun trying to catch him. Philip Armstrong is certainly trying to claw back some of those vital 21 seconds. Paul Wignall himself, on the other hand, was in rather reserved mood for a change. Still, it's not over till the Fat Lady sings in Blackpool Tower, and onward the rally moved to the next regularity down through the Pennines and the Yorkshire Dales.
From an action point of view, the regularities on an event like this don't provide much of a show, although as you'll see here, the scenery very often makes up for it. But the trick for the competitors is in travelling a certain distance at a certain speed and therefore arriving at hidden and unknown checkpoints at a particular time. That's why they're driving like your grandmother after a few sherries and on her way to Sunday service. A stop at the Fat Lamb Country Inn provides much needed sustenance and a chance to check over the maps before heading out for the final afternoon's activities and the run to Blackpool. Andrew Chester's still messing about in his MGB. The objective of this test is to coast down the hill with the engine off, stopping exactly within the box at the bottom. Only one stop can the driver start the engine, and no, he doesn't drive off yet. He must then reverse behind the line he has just crossed, and then forward to complete the rest of the test. Yes, we know it sounds crazy, but they do it every year, and yet again it seems to be one of those that strikes fear into the heart of the competitors. You see, it's quite easy to do what Jonathan Hancock does. In his eagerness to get the test over and done with, he muddles it all up. Robert McLean might have a worse problem though. But he's not stopped for too long. You know, it just fits in the box.
This is good.
And again, it's time to catch up with leader Paul Wignall.
4 tests to go, to be precise.
Are you nervous?
Yes, in a nutshell.
Have you calmed it down a bit today?
Yes, this morning was, we really did need to be fastest in class on a couple of tests, which we've managed that. Yes. Philip Armstrong made a mistake on the regularity on the ranges there, so that gave us a bit more of a buffer. But we've still got Robin Eyre Maunsell and Jan Ebers, both in the same class, giving me grief on the tests, so I can't really relax. Oh. However, there's 4 to go. Yes. And I wish I was in Blackpool.
Not long now, Paul. Just outside Preston now for a test at some sewage works. From farmyard muck to, well, let's not think about it, shall we? Tom Callanan is only seconds behind David Mackay, fighting for Class 6 honours, so he wastes no time on this test. Warren Shimura gets a bit of a pasting from wife Jean here. John Bateson nearly lets it slip. He's about 30 seconds behind James Wignall's first position in Class 4. Frank Lenihan and Kath Woodman don't have too much to worry about. With 10 minutes over the next crew in their class, this should be easy. And can Frank Fennell improve his third overall? There's 30 seconds between him and second place Philip Armstrong, so it's definitely possible if Philip makes just a small mistake. But with the first quickest on this test, he's certainly not giving in. A slight error from Paul Wignall shouldn't cause him to drop any time, but are the nerves getting the better of the crew? But the luckiest competitor here was Charles Graves in his Jaguar, who was happily minding his own business until this spin nearly put him into the wall and out of the event. At last the rally arrives in Blackpool, but there are still 2 tests to go. The organisers, of course, aren't letting the crews off lightly, and they've thrown in a few tight cone sections to slow the drivers down. Enthusiastic from start to finish, Simon Parson takes his Austin Hilly Sprite home to second in class. Roy Gillingham finishes 15th overall. In the entertaining Porsche, the Melsons win their class. And it looks like it's not over a moment too soon for navigator Nicole. final top 6 starts with Jan Evers and Lester van der Zalm. Frank Lenahan and Kath Woodman managed to stay in 5th. Robert M. Maunsell and Peter Scott maintained 4th overall. Philip Armstrong and Frank Hussey have a few problems on the last of the test, including here where they seem to panic and drop to 3rd. Which leaves Frank Fennell and Kevin Savage to take 2nd. But the leaders from all the way back in Scarborough are Paul Wignall and Mark Appleton. Although Paul's a bit eager to get to the finish on the last test, very nearly goes the wrong way. Good job he's got Mark with him, who wastes no time in ringing the final bell. So let's get a final word from Paul. How does it feel to win such a tough event?
David, it's great. I've really wanted to win this rally for a long time. I think it's the best historic rally there is, and to win it is just the highlight of whatever I've done.
And the thing is, you didn't change your driving style, exuberant from start to finish.
I didn't have any option with the people in my class.
How about your navigator on this event?
Well, this was the key, I think. The walk-up ranges were very difficult, and Mark is absolutely superb. He's cool, calm and collected. Never has made a mistake the whole way around the rally.
And how does he keep you under control?
I don't know how he does it. I think I'm so respectful of the job that he does that I think to myself, like, I shouldn't really ruin his performance by me screwing up.
Yeah. He says it was mistake-free.
He's not telling the truth.
Well, it can't be far from it. I mean, you can't have made many mistakes in one in this event.
No, we had one big event, one big mistake, and a few little ones that we recovered from. But yeah, just one big one that we got penalised for. Other than that, yeah, it went okay.
And is it difficult to keep him under control? Because he is an exuberant driver, as we saw when he hit the triangle.
Yeah, I'm just a passenger when it comes to those sorts of things.
Paul's usual navigator is actually clerk of the course Fred Bent, but they've never had much luck together.
Doesn't know he's out of a job.
Let's have a final word from Fred on the success of the event.
Yeah, I think we had a shorter night sections this year, and so we had a little bit more time in the hotels, which was good. But it's been quite tough, nevertheless. And I think most people will say it's one of the toughest rallies they do, and this year's probably no exception. But, I hope it's been enjoyable. I've enjoyed doing it. Good.
Now, when you set out to do a route like this, are you trying to test the drivers and navigators 50-50 or?
To be honest, the way you organise a route is find hotels to stay in and join up the dots. The bits in between come accidentally.
Let's take a look back now at some of the highlights of the whole event.
Scarborough Fair. Parsley, sage, rosemary and thyme. Remember me
fairly sideways.
I'll never forget the moment we kissed the night of the hayride. The way that we hugged to try to keep warm while taking the sleigh ride. Magic moments, memories we've been shared. Magic moments, when two hearts
That's the second time today I've had that off.
Well, look at that, look at that, look at that, look at that, ooh wee. Look at that, look at that, look at that, ooh wee. Oh, well, she's so fine, fine, fine. She's so fine, fine. She's so fine, and she's so fine, fine, fine. She's really
Cumberland Gap, 19 miles to the Cumberland Gap, Cumberland Gap, 19 miles to the Cumberland Gap. Lay down, boys, take a little nap, 19 miles from the Cumberland Gap. Lay down, boys, take a little nap, 19 miles from the Cumberland Gap, Cumberland Gap, Cumberland Gap, 19 miles from the Cumberland Gap, Cumberland Gap, Cumberland Gap, 19 miles from the Cumberland Gap.
All together now, 1, 2, 3. Keep your mind on your drive and keep your hands on the wheel, and keep your snoopy eyes on the road ahead. We're having fun, sitting in the back seat, kissing and a hugging with Fred. Dee-doo-dee-dum-dum, dee-doo-dee-dum-dum, dee-doo-dee-dum-dum-dum.
7 little girls sitting in the back seat, everyone in love with Fred. I said, you don't need me, I'll get off at my house, and this is what the 7 girls said.
All together now, 1, 2, 3. Keep your mind on your drive and keep your hands on the wheel, and keep your snoopy eyes on the road ahead. We're having fun, sitting in the back seat, kissing and a hugging with Fred.
Kissing and a hugging with Fred.
Oh, Freddie.
Kissing and a hugging with Fred.
Come on.
Kissing and a hugging with Fred.
Gee.
Kissing and a hugging.
I think we need more women.